Today is a very special video, guys. Trails from Zero. My Trails coverage continues. Let's get into it. When I heard the news that Trails of Cold Steel 3 had been announced by NISA for a Western release, I started to get pumped for the Trails series once again. This was my breaking point. After completing Trails in the Sky the Third after its release in 2017, and choosing to hold off on playing the Cold Steel games to play the series in its original release order, because I'm a filthy hardcore purist, I'd been waiting for the second arc, the Crossbell duology, Trails from Zero, and Trails to Azure, to be localized. The publisher switch to NISA gave me the impression that Xseed was not working on them behind the scenes, and it was time to bite the bullet and start the journey of the fan translations of the Crossbell games, the two unreleased Trails games that take place between Trails in the Sky and Trails of Cold Steel. I was so pumped about this, in fact, I threw out my original backlog play schedule and jumped straight into the mysterious Trails from Zero, which is the topic of today's video. I have to admit I did not know much about this game outside of the cover art and that the visuals and presentation were similar to Trails in the Sky, but that's exactly how I wanted it. I really wanted to go into this game blind and be swept away and just be totally taken in by the story in this world, just like I did in the Trails in the Sky games, and that's exactly what I got. If you have played the Trails in the Sky games, Trails from Zero is about as much as you could hope for as a continuation and expansion on the groundwork set in those games, and at the same time have an entirely new game with a new story and a new cast of characters. A lot is even brought over from the previous games as well. The old school PS1-esque development practices, the chibi or super cute character sprites, the NPC and character animations. Even the battle system is a modified version of the Trails in the Sky one. It seemed as if all game they were taking all the good elements from the previous games and mixing them into the new ideas and scenario they wanted to present with this game with flawless execution. The dense city-state of Crossbell is the setting for our adventure. Imagine a Trails version of a big urban city, and that's basically what Crossbell is, except it's its own state or territory with its own unique laws that are constantly trying to be exploited by the neighboring countries. There are a few different regions of the city, ranging from an elaborate entertainment district with an incredible performance hall, to the governmental district where City Hall and the police headquarters sit, to an Asian-inspired street, the slums, and a shopping district, among others. Your time is spent either running around the city or exploring the highways and byways that lead to the suburbs and rural areas surrounding Crossbell. Now let's talk about the characters. You play the role of rookie detective Lloyd Bannings as he's thrown into being the leader of the Crossbell Police's new Special Support section. The other main cast include Ellie, the straight-laced, strong-willed, and courageous gun-wielding sharpshooter, Randy, the lazy but good-hearted halberd-wielding playboy, and Tio, the best girl who is blunt and soft-spoken and wields an experimental orbital staff and has mysterious powers. These characters are incredibly charming, and I found myself enjoying them even more than the main characters in Trails in the Sky. And the Sky Games cast is nothing to sneeze at and has incredible characters itself. The first few chapters of this game really put you in the characters' shoes, and they're extremely fun to get to know. The story is a little bit slower paced in the beginning, and it lets you kind of wrap your head around these characters' feelings and backgrounds. I found it to be a very rewarding balance by the end of the game, but just be prepared for a little bit of a slow grind to get to the more story-intensive parts, and just enjoy the character interactions and the character development in the meantime. Lloyd and company find themselves trying to adjust as they've just met each other and they're trying to work as a team for the new Special Support section, while at the same time questioning the section's very existence and being treated like rookie lackeys by the police department's top brass. The story in the game is extremely well crafted. It expands on the narrative from Trails in the Sky. It builds the series lore. The characters are incredible, and it's well written. The characters are serious when they need to be and funny and filled with their little quirks and personality at the right time. Also, they make good and sensible decisions and don't leave you questioning why they did something because it would be easier from a gameplay or story element standpoint. The game seems self-aware and doesn't always take itself seriously, and even points out when, say, a character shows up at just the perfect time, treating the player with respect. At the end of the day, this is a detective story, and that's a huge breath of fresh air in the JRPG realm. The game even goes like total lethal weapon in a couple of the high action scenes, and those parts are great. And you have to choose the correct detective decisions from time to time, so make sure you're paying attention. Let's talk for a second about the uniqueness of this setting. How often do you play the role of a police officer in a dense urban city in a traditional JRPG? Let's get one thing straight. For as much unfamiliar territory this game trots on in the traditional JRPG realm, there's just as much familiar territory in here too. And this is balanced in a way other games can only dream of. When you're in the city of Crossbell, you may think, I've never seen a setting quite like this before. I'm having to report to the chief and piece together clues, and when you leave for some investigations in the suburbs, you realize this is most definitely still a traditional JRPG, and it feels a bit more like Trails in the Sky aesthetically. It really finds an enjoyable balance in these aspects and keeps it fresh coming off the Sky games. There are tons of NPC characters that range from important to just an everyday citizen trying to make ends meet. You can usually tell via a character portrait next to their dialogue box. These characters are also very well done, and every now and then one of them may temporarily join your party. The NPCs constantly have new things to say, and it will be almost impossible to read every line of text in one playthrough. This is a staple of the Trails series. The NPCs often speak about their personal lives, the political environment, or just the neighborhood rumors, and it often may carry some importance or give you a clue to what to do next. They may also gush about general series lore or where a support request is. Support requests are the side quests given to you by the police department and let you earn DP. Giggity.
Giggity, giggity, giggity.
Detective points, you perverts. Much like the bracer points from Trails in the Sky. In fact, they're basically the same thing. In fact, the support section is basically just a bracer's rip-off. Oh no. Tio and her soul-piercing glare. Did I mention there's a lot of things borrowed from Trails in the Sky? That's absolutely not a bad thing, and you'll feel right at home here. And while we're on things that are borrowed, let's go ahead and get into the music and battle system. Some of the classic tracks and melodies from Trails in the Sky make a return, but don't sleep on the game's original pieces either, because this game has great music as well. This is another aspect where I think they found the perfect balance of familiar and heartwarming tunes from the Sky games and mixing them with the new songs that were designed for this experience. Hats off to Falcom's music and sound team. The battle system is a real treat. Imagine if you could combine Grandia and Final Fantasy Tactics battle systems, and that's basically what this is. Trails from Zero sports traditional turn-based combat with the tactics grid and additional character stats like move and range thrown in. You command your characters to take a certain square on the field to attack enemies. You have long-ranged and close-range characters. Lloyd and Randy are your close-range, Tio is a mid-range / AoE, and Ellie is a long-range. It's a very nice balance and allows you to dispatch enemies with ease. Sometimes the novelty wears off and you can completely forget about the grid. This usually leads to you driving your character into the middle of a ton of enemies to do a physical attack without thinking, and they surround him and KO him. Oops, strategy and character position during battle is definitely a thing. It's extremely fun and addicting and one of my favorite traditional style battle systems in a JRPG. You build your crafts bar just like in Trails in the Sky, then select from an array of regular crafts that deal all kinds of buffs and debuffs and elemental damage. You also have special crafts that are the heavy-hitting signature moves of your characters. With the new additions this time around being combined crafts where you team up with another character and dish out a special move only those two characters can pull off, and the addition of the team rush, where all 4 party members attack simultaneously and often kills or almost kills all your enemies. The dungeons in this game are pretty easy and linear with some light puzzle solving thrown in, except for that last dungeon. That one is long and grindy and complicated, and I had the most fun of my entire playthrough in the last dungeon. Now on to the translation. I played the most recent version of the current fan translation that's out right now. It's a little bit rough. There's a lot of translation choices that'll leave you scratching your head, and you might even have to get out the dictionary for a couple of the words that they used in this, which is fine for me given my past history with fan-translated anime and JRPGs, but it's probably not fine for most. That being said, there's a much higher quality fan translation of the game that's coming out this year from the good old people over at the Geofront. This translation is supposed to be on par quality-wise with the localized versions of the Trails games we've seen in the past. I'll leave the link to their fan translation page in the description below. My advice is to wait for that fan translation or for an official release. So if you're preparing to play Trails of Cold Steel 3, playing this arc is important. Do it. All in all, this game was an incredible story, character, and world-driven journey with a refreshing take on turn-based battle, with action and plenty of drama, and oh yeah, Lloyd's harem. We'll just leave that alone for now. Anyway, this game and series at large is like a well-written, ongoing serial anime with a huge cast of characters, multiple arcs, and intertwining narrative and lore. In many ways, there's nothing else like it available, and it makes this series extremely special. I think I may have even enjoyed this game more than any of the Sky games, but that's hard to say because this game is so close to Trails in the Sky's story and characters. But Trails from Zero can be played on its own and still provide plenty of enjoyment. Hell, it may even inspire you to check out the Sky games if you haven't already. Trails from Zero, with its refreshing battles, incredible and fun characters, unique setting, and classic design, is a must-play for any old-school JRPG fan. Also, waifus. There are difficult waifu decisions to be made here, Rixia. So be prepared for that. In closing, the Dorky Deviant absolutely recommends this game, and as a fan, ambassador, and advocate of this series, all I can do is ask you to help us support it. The series and its fans have struggled a little bit with the releases of these games in the West. We want to continue to see these games come out in English. So again, please help us support this series. I hope you guys enjoyed my review and perspective on Trails from Zero, and thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you later.